Hello, fellow horror fiends, and welcome to The Horror Within Me, a podcast dedicated to the world of horror. Join us each week as our host explores a new, horrifying topic from the many realms of horror, such as film, television, and more, and returns to tell us his terrifying revelations. So sit back, relax, and get ready to face the horrors within.
Hi, and welcome back to another Spooky Sunday episode of The Horror Within Me. It is me, your host, Eric, and I am so excited for this week's episode because we're not doing just one piece of a movie or TV show or whatever, but this week I thought it'd be super fun since we're in spooky season, we're in October. It's the perfect time to share the wealth and share the suggestions. So this week we're going to be doing my top favorite horror anthology TV series and or movies. So if you don't know what anthology means, I'll do a quick Wikipedia definition. Anthology, let me clear my throat. Hold on, let me get all professional for this, okay? An anthology series is a radio, television, video game, or film series that spans different genres and presents a different story and a different set of characters in each different episode, season, segment, or short. That's directly from Wikipedia, so that is the definition of an anthology series. You know, things like American Horror Story is the perfect example of an anthology series. Each season's different, even though they sometimes tie in and things like that. But it is nonetheless an anthology, which is a story that is its own thing, which is what I just described to you all. Fun fact, just speaking of it while I have it fresh on the brain, did you guys know that John Carpenter wanted the Halloween franchise to be an anthology series? Which is why after they closed the chapter of Halloween 1 and 2 and like completed the story, and then Halloween 3 is Season of the Witch, because it was its own thing and they wanted it to be like that for every film. But Season of the Witch, which is highly cult classic now and popular to a lot of people now, was not that popular, and people wanted Michael. They loved Michael Myers. They loved the storyline. So that's why in 1988, the studio resurrected him and brought him back in Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. So that's a little fun fact in case nobody knew that, but I don't, if you're into horror the way I am, you probably did. In horror movie news this week, well, not this week, but in general, the new Hellraiser movie was released on Hulu. I did go and watch it. I thought it was good, but again, I only saw the first original Hellraiser one time and none of the others, so I can't really compare it. But in terms of horror, I thought it was well done. I thought the new Pinhead was pretty good, and all the Cenobites really. I thought it was a good storyline. The special effects were great. Another thing that was released was the Netflix Mr. Harrigan's Phone, and that I did not like. And I don't know if this is an unpopular opinion or what. I didn't see many people talking about it at all, to be honest with you, but I was not a fan. I don't know, and I'm gonna be your full disclosure here. It was after work and I was on the couch and kind of tired. So I did doze in and out. So maybe I need to go back and rewatch it. Maybe this review isn't that fair, but I wasn't a big fan. But, you know, I'm a huge Stephen King fan. I know it was a short novella based off of one of his, based off of his work. But maybe this is one of those examples where the story doesn't go to screen properly. I don't know. I don't know. I have a friend who watched it and she liked it, but everyone's tastes are different. I just feel like it left me with a lot of unanswered questions, which sometimes maybe my personal taste is I like to have a completion and I like to know, like, I don't want to just watch something with no answer at the end of it. It's just not my cup of tea. But Netflix also released Mike Flanagan's The Midnight Club, which was a 10-episode miniseries or little series. And I really, really, really liked it a lot. And if you're a fan of Flanagan, you will most likely like it too. It's not Bly Manor. It's not Midnight Mass. It's not Hill House. It is its own thing. And I think that's what I like most about Mike Flanagan work is it is its own kind of thing. So, look that up on Netflix. It is very well. And another exciting thing that I'm sure everyone is aware of this weekend, Halloween Ends was released on Peacock and in theaters. Now, I have not seen it yet while I'm recording this, but by the time this airs, it would have come out already. So just know that my YouTube channel, I'm going to do a full movie review that will most likely contain spoilers. So watch Halloween Ends. Check out the YouTube review in the coming week on my YouTube channel. But that is it that I have this week for horror movie news. So I hope that was informative for you. And before we go any further, it is time for terrifying trivia. This week's terrifying trivia question is, what was the first ever horror anthology series? I'm going to repeat the question. What was the first ever horror anthology series? Stick around to the end of this episode to get the answer. So now that all the logistics are out of the way, we're going to dive right in to this week's episode because it's a fun episode. I'm very excited about this. Horror and anthology, just for me, is very nostalgic because I didn't even know what anthology was growing up, but it was all around. It's been around before my time with many different things. So I just want to dive in because I think the fun thing with anthology is you can love a particular piece like overall, but each time it's a different story and it keeps it fresh and it gives the creativity to a lot of other writers and creators to put their work out there in a short format and tell their spooky stories. And I think that's what I love the most about anthology. Some of it could be over the top and just ridiculous, but it gives that platform to people. And that's just super cool in my opinion. But while I don't want to confuse anyone, this is not a top 5 or top 10. And when I go through my top favorites, this is in no particular order. I just, as they came to me, I just belted off of that and I just made a list and we're going to go off of that. I'll touch on them a little bit and we'll move down. So this is not my personal rating order. I have to throw that out there for anyone. But all right. So first one I'm going to jump into is, I already mentioned it, American Horror Story. A little background, American Horror Story is run for 11 seasons from 2011 until now. The 11th season airs October 19th, I believe, which is next week. And it airs on FX, but can also be streamed on Hulu. It is an 8 out of 10 rating on IMDb and a 77% on Rotten Tomatoes. Everybody knows what American Horror Story is. I mean, how do you not? I love American Horror Story. Do I love every season of American Horror Story? No. My least favorite season of American Horror Story is, I think, 1984. I don't know why. That or maybe the latest one with the double feature. I just felt that they were rushed, but that's my opinion. I say that like every week, right? Oh, my opinion. I feel like I have to preface that this show is solely based on my opinion because some people can get very upset and they're like, you're wrong. I'm not right or wrong. This is just my opinion. And I'm hoping, to share that with people and you take with that with what you want. But yeah, American Horror Story birthed Sarah Paulson in a way. And I love Sarah Paulson, but also Jessica Lange in the first 4 seasons was amazing. Who doesn't love Jessica Lange? And especially Coven. There's so many iconic, maybe it's because I'm gay and the gays just love the witchcraft and the witches and I don't know, but it was just an iconic season. I like them all. Really cool anthology series. Ryan Murphy does an amazing job with storytelling, even if he, doesn't hit the mark for me every time. I'm very interested this new season that's coming out, season 11, with the New York City that was recently released. It hasn't had a ton of marketing or promotions, but it looks very S&M, very homoerotic. So I'm here for it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm all about it. Let's bring the gays all over the place. Like, I want to see it. But that's one. If you want to check it out, like I said, it airs on FX, but you can stream it on Hulu. I believe all the past 10 seasons are there. And if you want to check out the new season first, you don't have to watch them in any particular order. But I will say that there are characters and storylines that intertwine as the seasons go on and back and forth. So there's a whole universe in American Horror Story. So it might be best to just start from the beginning and watch it that way. Number 2, which I said again, no particular order, but second film I want to talk about is Trick or Treat, because I fucking love Trick or Treat. And I feel like there's not enough exposure or discussion about it, at least that I can see. Trick or Treat is a 2007 film, and it's got a 6.7 out of 10 rating on IMDb and 81% on Rotten Tomatoes. And it is with, the infamous Sam, the little pumpkin guy, the sack head. I loved Trick or Treat. I don't know why. It's just such a fun Halloween movie. It does what it's supposed to do. It doesn't take itself too seriously. And there's 3 stories, I believe 3 or 4 stories in the movie. They all kind of happen around the same times on Halloween night. And it's just such a fun movie. I don't know how else to explain it. If you're looking for a movie to watch that is a horror movie that's kind of creepy, kind of scary, but also makes you really feel like it's a part of the Halloween season, Trick or Treat is the movie for you. And you can rent it on Amazon Prime for $2.99. Next, I want to talk about another recommendation of mine is the Into the Dark season series on Hulu. It ran for 2 seasons from 2018 to 2021. It has a 6.3 out of 10 rating on IMDb and a 69% on Rotten Tomatoes. Now, Into the Dark is different in that it's not, even though it's considered seasons, it's not a television show per se. They're individual, wow, I can't speak. They're individual movies, and they're Blumhouse, which is I have a soft spot for Blumhouse. I would work for Blumhouse if they would hire me. Hire me, Blumhouse. And what I liked about the Into the Dark series is, like I said, they're individual movies, and they are tied around like holidays or like special kind of things going on. So like Halloween, Thanksgiving, St. Patrick's Day, Christmas, fucking, I don't know, Election Day. I made that one up, but you get the gist. They're just so fun. And I believe it was the one that was like the Valentine movie. There was a song in that called Back in Focus. I don't remember who sings it, but that's like one of my favorite songs. I love that song. And I got it from freaking Into the Dark. I know you have to have other people that enjoy music that they hear in horror movies, right? It can't just be me. It's not. And even if it is, I own that shit. But really fun. There was one that really scared me too. I think it was in season 2, The Pilgrims. That one got me. That was really good. Some of them were really cheesy, and I think like Puka Lives. If you haven't seen it, it's streaming on Hulu. And like I said, you have to search for Into the Dark because they're all individually named, but they fall under the Into the Dark category. So it's not like you click on Into the Dark and you have to look up, because for me, it was a little confusing. This is the only thing that bothered me, is that it's a little confusing because I couldn't figure out like orders and what was first. So I would go on Wikipedia to see which was released and like which order and which season. Just for me personally, like I said, it's an anthology series, so it really doesn't matter which one you watch, except for the Puka and Puka Lives, because they made like a sequel to it because everyone loved it. But that is so fun, and it was something I pride myself. And I'm gonna make an admission, and I don't want to be judged. I just realized that I didn't finish season 2, and I think I have one movie left to watch, and I just realized that as I'm recording this. So thank you for my own recommendation to go and finish the Into the Dark series. Again, streaming on Hulu. I say a lot too, don't I? God, I'm such a fucking mess all the time. The next anthology series I want to talk about is a throwback. And I mean way, way back. I don't know if anybody's going to know what the fuck I'm talking about. And it might seem like a fever dream, but I'm here to tell you it is real. And it is Freddy's Nightmares. Okay. I don't know if anyone else's little brain just lit up and they're like, oh, fuck, I remember this. Or if you're a young listener, I'm going to explain this to you briefly. Okay. Freddy's Nightmares ran for 2 seasons from 1988 to 1990. Okay. It's got a 6.2 out of 10 on IMDb and a 38% on Rotten Tomatoes. But don't let the 38%, deter you from checking out Freddy's Nightmares. Okay. Now, when I say Freddy's Nightmares, I am speaking of Freddy Krueger. Absolutely. And it's so fun. And I was very young when I was watching, but I was, like I said, growing up as a horror fucking fanatic. I watched what I could watch when I could watch it. And I don't remember a lot of the episodes. I know Freddy was in a couple, but it wasn't always about, he was more like your host, He wasn't always the antagonist in the episodes. So Freddy's Nightmares, there's one episode, and I can't even tell you the premise. I can't tell you the synopsis. I can't tell you shit about it. I could have looked it up for you, but I like to go off memory because it's more fun that way and more authentic for me and for you. So anyway, the one actress that has always stuck out, and it's weird because I liked this episode of Freddy's Nightmares before I liked the show that the actress is on now. But it's so funny that Mariska Hargitay from Law and Order SVU was in an episode of Freddy's Nightmares, guys. I swear to God, you have to look it up. And if you're into the old cheesy 80s, 90s fucking horror, you have to see this. It's so ridiculous, but it's so much fun. If you're looking for something to do on a weekend, have a watch party, make some spooky shakers, and watch some Freddy's Nightmares. And the best part is it's streaming for free on Tubi. I keep hearing more and more about Tubi. I actually watched something on Tubi recently. The ads and commercials really didn't bother me. Maybe it's because I grew up in an era before there was DVR and things like that, where I had to watch commercials when I was not watching, like premium channels. So I can get through some commercials, and all of our attention spans, let's be honest, are kind of short nowadays. So, okay, you're on Tubi for free and a commercial comes on, and you're going to check something on your phone anyway. Who doesn't always look at their phone and check for notifications and their social media posts or new followers or whatever the case is? Tubi's perfect now because it brings back that opportunity for a break in between what we're watching for us to either check our phones or do whatever else that it is, because let's be honest, staring at something for over an hour or two is difficult without turning away and our attention span going somewhere else. That's just where we're at in a society today. But moving on, going in the theme of 80s and 90s anthology horror, let's talk about Tales from the Crypt. Everybody should have known what Tales from the Crypt is and who the Crypt Keeper is. The little bone guy in the brown robe that was the host. And I really want to try to do his voice, but I'm getting over COVID. And I don't know if it's going to come off the way I want it to. And I don't want to embarrass myself here. But he was the Crypt Keeper that would tell the stories and had the infamous opening scene with the mansion and the door and that damn music. Dun, 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 dun. Don't judge me for that. And I remember I was with him for Halloween one year as a kid, but I love Tales from the Crypt. It scared me. And like when it came on, it was later and you weren't able to, I wasn't supposed to be watching that because I think it was on HBO. And a little background, it ran for 7 seasons from 1989 to 1996. It has an 8 out of 10 on IMDb and 82% on Rotten Tomatoes. It was just really good. And I unfortunately, I can't tell you where you can watch it because I can't find anywhere to stream it. I tried to find it, but I read one thing and I don't know if it's what's so true or what's not, but there's apparently like licensing issues or something. So that's why it's not on HBO Max. It would be great if they could figure out how to fucking get their shit together for us fans and get it out on these streaming services, because it is the world of streaming. Get Tales from the Crypt on there and reintroduce that shit. And I don't remember Tales from the Crypt Keeper. This is just a side thing from being a child. Tales from the Crypt Keeper was a children's cartoon with the Crypt Keeper in a more PG version. I used to watch that shit all the time. I remember that more than I remember, Tales from the Crypt, the actual show. But Tales from the Crypt also spawned some movies I used to watch all the time. Tales from the Crypt Demon Knight and Tales from the Crypt Bordello of Blood. I had no fucking business. Let me just tell you, I had no business watching Tales from the Crypt Bordello of fucking Blood. It's a whorehouse of vampires. I was like 9, 10, watching the vampire whorehouse. Listen. If you know me or you've been listening, you don't judge. We're all the same. But I was on TikTok recently and somebody posted about one of the movies and I commented and the guy was like, "Did you see the third one?" And I'm like, "There was never a third one." In my head, I didn't say this to him, but I'm like, "A third one?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I forget the name. And I'm like, "Are you fucking kidding me? How did I not know there was a third Tales from the Crypt movie? That's disappointing." I never knew there was a third Tales from the Crypt movie, and I'm trying to find it. I saw the name of it yesterday, again, when I was looking into trying to figure out where to stream the show from, and again, ran out of my brain. I'm gonna blame it on COVID. That's what we're gonna go with. But Tales from the Crypt was iconic. Everyone knows the Crypt Keeper. He popped out of the fucking casket and did the maniacal laugh that I always try to imitate because I am a psychotic person at heart. But again, I am not going to do that. Moving on, we're going to talk about American Horror Stories. Now, not American Horror Story. American Horror Stories is super fun, and it is its own series, its own anthology series. It is tied into the world of American Horror Story, but instead of it being season-long stories, it's single episode stories. Kind of like Freddy's Nightmares or Tales from the Crypt. It has 2 seasons. It came out in 2021 and it's still happening. It has a 6.2 out of 10 on IMDb and a 66% on Rotten Tomatoes. I have started season 2. I watch it with my husband. And so I haven't been able to finish it because we usually start one of our shows after work and after we settle down and cook and we sit down to eat dinner and we watch something on TV, one of our shows. So we put on the one episode, and it's like with pustules, and it's fucking gross. And I don't mind eating and watching the grossest shit ever. Background about me, for 10 years, I was an endoscopy tech. I did colonoscopies, endoscopies. I've seen a lot of nasty shit, literally. So that doesn't bother me. But him, he's not into that. So we have never finished season 2, and I'm like, "Can we watch this?" And I think he actually gave me permission to watch that one without him, and then maybe we can move forward. I think it's super fun, and I think season 2 was starting off very strong. So I'm excited to finish season 2 and check that out. But I'm real excited to talk about my next recommendation to you guys. Okay, I don't know why it's like my new favorite guilty pleasure. It's not even a guilty pleasure. I don't know. Anyway, I ramble. I want to talk about the TV show Creepshow. Okay. I discovered Creepshow recently when I got Shudder, which it is streaming on Shudder. It has a 7 out of 10 on IMDb and a 97% on Rotten Tomatoes. 97% on Rotten Tomatoes. I think that is the highest rating score on this list. And it is so fun. So Creepshow was like, I think Stephen King book or something, but it was made into 2 movies in the 80s and I didn't see the movies. But he's a similar to like Crypt Keeper kind of guy, but he doesn't talk really. He's like a skeleton with like weird hair and a robe on his head as well. But it's more comic book, and they're single episode stories. And they're not long. I think each episode there's 2 stories, about 20 minutes each, which is fucking awesome because you get like double doses of horror stories that are so fun. And this takes me back to what I was talking about earlier with having the opportunity for so many horror creators to get their stamp out there and get their little mini creations to really be noticed after they are accepted into the show or whatever. I binged the 3 seasons. It started in 2019 and it's still going. I'm waiting on season 4. I keep Googling and I was like, oh, I'm so excited. Creepshow will be in October. It would be October. It's not. I don't think it has a release date yet, but it is so fun. It is so fun. And there's some like big people, like actors that I've seen playing in different episodes. So anyway, some of the episodes are so wild and cheesy, and the effects, practical effects, are fucking cheesy and corny, but I love that shit. I love everything about that shit. If you are into horror, you need to watch Creepshow. I'm just telling you, if you don't want to spend the money on Shudder alone because it's hit or miss, which I fucking love Shudder. But I get it. Get AMC Plus. AMC Plus also comes with Shudder, so you're getting a more bang for your buck. You know what I mean? You are able to watch everything on AMC and everything on Shudder. It just gives you more. And you know, why not get AMC Plus? You get The Walking Dead, you get Interview with a Vampire, you get all that fucking shit. So, and AMC Fear Fest, come on now. That's iconic. I grew up with that shit. So if you don't have it, go online, add the $9 or whatever the fuck it is for, or try a trial period and just check out Creepshow. And also, while we're on this topic of Shudder, this little sidebar note, also check out, Jesus Christ, it's like the Dark and the Wicked movie on Shudder. Fucking terrifying movie. But I don't want to get into that. We're not doing a review of Shudder shit. But Creepshow is one of my favorite shows right now. I don't know why. It's just so fucking dumb, but the stories they're just fun. It's just very fun, and it's the perfect time in spooky season to watch Creepshow. So moving on. This is very nostalgic for me, and I'm cheesing and I'm getting a little boyish, but Are You Afraid of the Dark is on this list. And any of my millennials, like me, I was born in 86. Anyone that was born in the 80s, like early 80s, mid 80s, whatever, you have to know what Are You Afraid of the Dark is. It used to come on, it was on the Nickelodeon channel, but it was called Snick, like SNICK, like Snick. And it was for like teens and not the kiddies. You know, there's Nick Jr., Nickelodeon, then there was Snick. And it was more mature content, if you will. Are You Afraid of the Dark ran for 10 seasons. So I clumped it all together because I want to preface that it says it's from 1990 until present. And what that means is there was, I think, a few seasons from like 1990 to 1996, and then there was a reboot, and then a reboot, and a reboot, and some movies. So that's up until recently. So the popularity is popping back up. So even if you aren't from my era, you might know what Are You Afraid of the Dark is now because it's been resurfacing. It has an 8.2 out of 10 on IMDb. But here's the funny thing. There's no Rotten Tomato rating, like at all. Could not find a Rotten Tomato rating on Are You Afraid of the Dark? But fuck it, right? We like it. I love it. But it is so creepy. Some of those episodes fucking scarred me as a child. And one in particular, I don't remember everything, but it was like Gilbert Gottfried was in it. And he terrified me. And I watched this at my grandmother's house with one of my friends when I was a kid. Wow, sometimes my mom and dad would drop us off there while they went to the grocery store. They didn't want to deal with the bratty ass kid. I was a brat. I was such a fucking brat and spoiled, and never left my mother alone. So she needed like breather. I would get dropped off anyway. I remember watching that there, and I was terrified of that show, that episode. And I see people sharing it, and I love the community because I see people sharing it on TikTok and Facebook or whatever, and they share their favorite episodes. I'm like, oh, I remember this and I remember that, like new memory unlocked. So Are You Afraid of the Dark is definitely just nostalgic for me. Something that like I said, and it's weird that those episodes on Snick still scared me when I was also still watching things like Night of the Demons and Tales from the Crypt, or, real hardcore rated R horror. This kid stuff still got to me because scary is scary. And some of that shit, even back then for kids, I don't think would be rated for children today because it's a different generation and a different society. But yeah, loved Are You Afraid of the Dark? And my last recommendation for horror anthology series or movies is going to follow suit of the children's era, and it's going to be the Goosebumps television series. Now, again, my childhood, I grew up with the Goosebump books. And then I don't remember I think it was Fox, the Fox channel, had a Goosebumps TV series that was based off of the books. It ran for 4 seasons from 1995 to 1998. And it has a 7.6 out of 10 on IMDb. And yet again, no fucking Rotten Tomato score. And I'm wondering if there's no Rotten Tomato scores on the children's stuff because they don't fucking score children's. I don't know what they fucking rate, but the last two with the children's stuff have no ratings on Rotten Tomatoes. But anyway, I love the Goosebumps series, and it is. Oh, whoops, sorry. Are You Afraid of the Dark is streaming on Paramount Plus, by the way. Go check it out. So, Goosebumps has recently been released this October on Netflix. You can see them all. So, if you grew up and you have children now and you used to watch them with your kids. They're fun family things to do and watch. I remember The Haunted Mask. Everyone knows The Haunted Mask. You think of Goosebumps, the TV series, if you're growing up. You think of The Haunted Mask and The Haunted Mask 2. That terrified me as a kid. I was petrified of that mask getting stuck, like putting mask on and like forming and turning me into my face. What was her name? Carly? Right? And the girl in the first one? I don't know. I thought it was so fun, and it's such a fun show to watch again with your kids or just for nostalgic purposes during the Halloween season. Get your house nice and decorated and get some themed drinks and food, preferably spooky shakers, and pop on some Goosebumps. Maybe even during the day, and then turn it darker at night. Put on Shudder, watch something. Watch the new Halloween Ends on Peacock. I don't know, but definitely those are my top horror anthology series and where to watch them. But I do have 2 honorable mentions, and I'm going to tell you, I've not seen these really to make them on my top, but I know the popularity of them, and they deserve to be mentioned and deserve for you to make your own opinions. And they are The Twilight Zone, which is on Paramount Plus, and Black Mirror, which streams on Netflix. The Twilight Zone is iconic. Everyone listening up to this point is like, he's not going to talk about The Twilight Zone? How do you not talk about The Twilight Zone? Unfortunately, I did not watch The Twilight Zone, so I can't categorize it as one of my top favorite, but it is an iconic, and to my opinion, like the start of horror anthology in television. In the 50s, I believe it started, and they had also reboot and reboot and reboot. But also Black Mirror is very popular, and I've heard so much about it, and I'm also like ashamed that I never really watched Black Mirror, and I'm not going to say I never will. Maybe that I'll get into that now that I'm being more and more involved in watching more horror content now that I have slowed down and, not in school anymore and things like that. So those 2 are my honorable mentions. So again, those are my top anthology horror things. If you're looking for fun things to binge and stream that are fresh storylines every time, that is the way to go. But before we wrap up, we have to answer the terrifying trivia question this week. So if you're ready, it's time to answer this week's terrifying trivia question. The question again, before we answer, is what was the first ever horror anthology series? And the answer is in 1919, Austrian director Richard Oswald released a German silent anthology horror film called Eerie Tales. Now, this film is split into 5 stories, and they are The Apparition, The Hand, The Black Cat, The Suicide Club, and The Spectre. So if you got that right, now this is translated, obviously, into Eerie Tales. I am not German, nor do I speak German to even attempt to pronounce the German name of this anthology series, but I thought it was interesting. It was 1919. I feel like horror was really picking up around that time, 1919, 1920, Nosferatu, things like that. So it originated in Germany. So that's really cool. And that is the end of this week's Spooky Sunday episode of The Horror Within Me. I really hope you guys had a fun time. I hope you check out some of these recommendations. As always, you can find me outside of here on YouTube at The Horror Within Me. Go and subscribe to that, as there's different content there. On TikTok, which is always fun for quick little reviews of fresh things or just videos of past things, like movies that we like share in common and like. There is the Facebook page that keeps updates on the show and all the things that we're doing, but also the Facebook group, which is the Horror Within Me podcast, where we have a community of people that are sharing all their love for different horror things, as well as the podcast. And on Instagram, that is where you can find me when you are not listening to the new Spooky Sunday episodes. And if you would be so kind, please rate and review the episode so that I know what you liked, what you didn't like. It really helps my numbers in the rankings on wherever you listen to your podcasts. But that is my time with you this week. Thank you so much for, again, taking the time to spend with me. I enjoy every second of this. I enjoy every Sunday where I get to sit down for a period of time and just talk about my passion for something in the horror genre. And everyone out there is just amazing. And I really, really can't thank you all enough. So in closing, stay safe, but more importantly, stay spooky.